So delayed labor is a very common problem, right, all over the world. And sometimes few interesting medicines which can help us in these situations. Number one, as you see in this list, I'm going to share with you, is colophylum. One of the things you have to understand for colophylum is their entire constitution has dealing with migratory pains. Colophylum is a medicine for finger joint rheumatism. And the finger joint is sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes here. You remember we have talked about colophylum ESI, erratic, stiffness, intermittent. So erratic pain, pain is coming and going. Erratic pain with lot of stiffness and intermittent pains, comes and goes, comes and goes. So in colophylum you have got the migratory pains in the joints, especially finger joints, with lot of stiffness in the finger joints and intermittent pain, comes and goes, ESI. Now that same migratory pain is applicable for colophylum even in labor. So whenever she is trying to push, whenever she is trying to concentrate all her pains in the downward direction, it's always migration, right? And if she strains quite a lot, trying to push, there's a needle-like pain in the cervix. Have a quick look in Allen's. There's a needle-like pricking pain in the cervix if she tries to push quite a lot. So the migratory pains is applicable for the joints. Migratory pain is applicable for the labor pains. Whenever she is trying to push in a downward direction, there is no coordination, so the pains migrate in all directions, resulting in delayed labor. And if she strains quite a lot, you'll find a stitching pain, a needle-like pain in the cervical region. You see there's a line, needle-like pains in the cervix. Got it?
Yes.
So these two are very important factors for your colophylum. Needle-like pain in the cervix. But one of the most important factors is the migratory pains. And sometimes your colophylum can be quite hysterical woman. I think Borike mentions that adapted to very hysterical women. So they can be hysterical, shouting, crying. So that kind of a reaction you get with colophylum. You're with me? 30C, 200C is the choice potency for colophylum. Right. My number 2 in this list, as you can see, I've mentioned that earlier as well, is chamomilla. Chamomilla is one of the fantastic medicines for labor pains and delayed labor. Why I say so? Whenever she is having the labor pain, it's her nature which will draw you towards chamomilla. And she is shouting, she is howling, telling the husband that, it's because of you that I'm going through this pain. Why did you make me pregnant? So that kind of, she's like abusing and cursing the husband. You don't know what it's like to be a mother. So those kind of words she will utter. So that kind of uncivil behavior, the line in Allen's, I've shared this with time and again, uncivil, too ugly to live. That kind of a reaction for chamomilla. And chamomilla cannot bear anything. They cannot bear pain, they cannot bear heat. So whenever they're in the labor room, they will always want doors and windows open because the heat of the labor room aggravates their symptoms much more. So they want doors and windows open. Heat aggravates for chamomilla. Cannot bear pain, cannot bear heat. Right? And your chamomilla is Nash's trio of pain remedies. What is the other two? Nash's trio of pain remedies. What are the other two? No, my friend. Aconite, coffea, and chamomilla. Trio of pain remedies. Aconite, coffea, and chamomilla. All these three cannot bear any pain. Aconite, coffea, and chamomilla. So think of a woman in the labor room, she is just abusing and cursing her husband that it is because of you, my life has become hell and I have to go through this kind of pain. And she cannot bear that pain because she's sensitive to that pain. And she's wanting the doors and windows open. And other PQRs for chamomilla, if you think when she's pushing, the pain should go in a downward direction. But whenever she is exerting, pains go upward. Very important PQRS for chamomilla. If you look in Allen's, it also mentions that pains run upward. That's a very, very important PQRS for chamomilla. So whenever she's trying to push, whenever she's trying to bring the baby out, the fetus out, pains push upward. Second page. Somewhere here. Yeah. Labor pain, spasmodic, pushing upwards. You got that? Tearing down the legs, pushing upwards. Press upwards. Press upwards. So the pain go upwards. So for colophilum, the pains migrate. For chamomilla, they come up.
Tearing down the leg.
Some tearing pain in this region. But whenever she is pushing, she feels the pain is coming in an antagonistic direction. It's coming in an opposite direction.
Also, yes, antagonist.
Yeah, she's always against everything. So that's why even the pain is like that. Chamomilla's prescription in labor pain is more based on her nature rather than the pains. You understand what I mean? Colophilum prescription is based on the pains. But chamomilla you will be able to understand from another labor room, another room in the hospital that, oh, there is a chamomilla having a labor pain. Because she's shouting, she's howling, and her husband is just keeping quiet. What to do? If I say something, I'll be killed. So she cannot bear it at all. And next to her, next to Miss Chamomilla having labor is Miss Pulsatilla having her labor. Oh, I take this pain. So she's just crying and crying. Please, my husband, dear husband, come to me and give me some comfort. So she wants that affection and wants her sympathy to be there. And she only agrees with Miss Chamomilla on one thing.
Open the window.
Correct. Open the window. Because your pulsatilla always wants fresh open air. Right? So again, pulsatilla's prescription in a delayed labor again is based on her nature. She's soft, mild, she's crying because of the pains. Wants the husband to be near, wants the family members to be near. But again, wants the doors and windows open. That's your pulsatilla. Right? Next to her in the labor room is Miss Gelsemium. And your Miss Gelsemium, the nurse is coming and slapping her. Come on, come on, come on, push, push, push. It's 20 hours already. Push, push, push. She's completely exhausted and sleepy. Dull, dizzy, drowsy is Gelsemium. Come on, you know, like you'll see sometimes in the labor room, they really slap her and really, pull her head. Come on, you have to push. I can't do it. I'm just exhausted and half dead. Dull, dizzy, drowsy, debility. She's so exhausted she cannot even push for the labor. It's been so long, she cannot do that. So Gelsemium will come in much later in the labor pain. Like it has been going on for some time long that, it's not happening anymore. So nurses, the doctors are frustrated. So Gelsemium can come in later. Because initially when you start off with the labor pains, you won't get that degree of debility which you expect with Gelsemium. So it comes in a few days later. Not a few hours later, where Gelsemium can be prescribed. So dull, dizzy, drowsy. Prostration, you see I mentioned that prostration is an important factor for your Gelsemium in a delayed labor. Weakness. But you see again, Gelsemium's prescription is based on her appearance. She's so exhausted, cannot push anymore. And she's dizzy because she cannot understand you. She's not responding to the question, so is dizzy as well. You understand what I mean? There is weakness obviously. But she's dizzy, what are you saying? It's like that. She's just almost semi-conscious. So that's the dizzy state which you associate with Gelsemium. Right? Again, 3200 works well for gels. And the last one in this group, which I've had good results with, is Simicifuga. Simicifuga's one of the interesting things which I've learnt again as a clinical tip. Whenever they're having the labor pain is this. Transverse. Pain from hip to hip. That's the typical peculiarity of a Simicifuga labor pain. Medicine number 5. It's not mentioned there, but you can add there. Pain from hip to hip. Transverse direction of pains. Very, very classical pain for Simicifuga. Simicifuga can have different types of symptoms. Before labor, after labor, it's a medicine for after pains, it's a medicine for recurrent abortions, it's a medicine for fibromyalgia. So there are different types of indications of semicifuga. But whenever you're prescribing for labor, do keep in mind that there's transverse hip pains as important, pain from hip to hip, right? And also important for semicifuga is a medicine for postnatal depression. What is the common name? Have a quick look in semicifuga. Common name of semicifuga or Actia racemosa. You see, the common name is black cohosh. Black cohosh. So everything is black, everything is dark around her. Wonderful, wonderful medicine for postnatal depression. Everything is black, everything is dark. First line analysis. Everything in the world seems dark, as if a dark cloud enveloped over her. So that kind of depression, she feels everything is dark. Yeah, another name for semicifuga is Actia racemosa. Got that? Everything is black, everything is dark. So after delivery, she feels dark, gloomy, depressed. Semicifuga is an excellent medicine. Got that? Black cohosh. No? Feels as if everything is dark, sensation as if a heavy black cloud enveloped all over her. Feels everything is dark and black. You with me? Got it? Right?
So everything is
Depression after delivery. So I shared with the colophila where it's migratory pains. Pain is not in a definite direction, migratory. Remember ESI, erratic, stiffness, intermittent for colophila. Number 2, I shared with you Miss Camomilla, where she is abusing and howling at her husband, and she wants the doors and windows open because she cannot bear the heat. And the pain runs upward in Camomilla. I shared with you Pulsatilla, where she's weepy and crying and sad and wants the husband near. Again, also she wants the doors and windows open, like your parents. Shared with you Gelsemium, where they are slapping, the nurse is slapping the lady, Miss Gelsemium, because she's drowsy, she's dizzy, she cannot recall anything. And semicifuga, typically it's this, hip to hip hip. If you ever hear that from a labor patient, close your eyes, the stress has to work. That is mentioned in boric acid. Have a quick look in boric acid, semicifuga is mentioned. Pain from hip to hip. Okay. And last one, many people do prescribe Cicalicor also for delayed labor. It also works well. Cicalicor's most important thing is there is no expulsive action. There is no there is no contractility, so there is relaxation always for Cicalicor. So that relaxation causes a delayed labor. So your Cicalicor works in a way to promote the uterine contraction. It's prepared from ergot, right? So it will help in such a way to promote uterine contraction. I have had much better success with Cicalicor in a case of postpartum hemorrhage, PPH, because after delivery, because of lack of expulsive action, the placenta, the retained products is not coming out. And if something is remaining, the discharge which is coming out, that is a typical discharge of Cicalicor, BTW, black, thin and watery. You understand what I mean? It can help in delayed labor, obviously, I am not disagreeing with that, but it has got a much good or better affinity for postpartum bleeding. Why? Because the retained products are remaining, which is not being expelled due to the lack of expulsive action. And now when you give Cicalicor, it will promote in the expulsion of those retained products. And when those retained products is bleeding from that, it's typically a black thin, watery discharge. It's like when you wash a fish or you wash the meat, the typical watery blood which is going through, there's a typical blood of sickle cord. Typical blood of sickle cord, black, thin, watery. You'll get that with her menstruation, you'll get that with her postpartum bleeding, you can get that with threatened abortion as well. Black, thin and watery, like typical when you're washing a fish or a meat. Why it is thin and watery? The blood doesn't have the viscosity. You understand, whenever you see blood, blood has a viscosity. Blood is not like water, it is thick. But your sickle cord's blood doesn't have that thickness, doesn't have that viscosity. That's why it's thin and watery blood. And those are your top 6 for today.
Can be sickle cord used instead of oxytocin induction to labor?
Yeah.
Only one maybe.
All the 5 of them can work as well. All the 5. Because in the beginning of labor, it's sometimes like that, they can't tell, they don't understand how to do that. So all the 5 of them, I would say, in many cases, all the 5 of them. You can handle labor with these 6. Okay, take a break. Come back.